What's up YouTube, it's your boy Grassy TV back with another Hero Siege video. Season 5 begins on December 13th and has been fully loaded with over 200 new sub-skill trees across all classes, as well as new items and runes, a Hero Siege style mapping system, a rebirth of glyphs, angelic augments, better Chaos Tower scaling, much needed performance improvements across the game, and so freaking much more. I am super excited to explore the new season and very humbled to be making content on this awesome game. Today, I present to you my life stacking Scorching Aura Pyromancer starter build guide for Season 5. The Scorching Aura Pyromancer revolves around dealing damage over time to enemies via fire-based abilities like Scorching Aura. This build focuses on enhancing area of effect damage and sustained burning effects, making it particularly effective for clearing mobs and wilting down bosses over time with additional life stacking conversion mechanics. The Pyro offers a smooth leveling process for both beginner and advanced players. In this video, you will find information on build functionality, a step-by-step leveling guide, full gearing section, loot filters, and much more. Timestamps will be available so you can easily navigate to your desired content, and a full written guide link will be available in the description. My goal here is to make your experience in Hero Siege as fun as possible. Let's get started. First, let's review some pros and cons of Scorching Aura. It's really an RRF or a Righteous Fire playstyle if you've ever played PoE. It's a very walking simulator style of build. It has decent movement options, and one of the craziest buffs for damage reduction in the game with Fire Shield. However, it is kind of button managey. There are a lot of buffs that you do have to manage. The damage on it can feel sluggish at times, especially in those early stages of leveling before you get your augment. And once you start scaling the build, there is a balance that you have to do between life scaling and dot scaling for this skill to really reach its full potential. Here's a quick overview of each skill or passive used in this build. Starting with our main damage, which is Scorching Aura. We scorch enemies around us, dealing fire damage, setting enemies on fire, and lowering their firing resistance. Second is our mobility. We use Phoenix Flight. This is a charge forward through the air sort of ability that does a big AoE fire damage whenever we hit something. Next is Blazing Trail. This leaves a trail behind us dealing fire damage to enemies. Through the sub-skill tree system, we do get some extra movement speed during this effect. Fire Shield and Fire Enchant are very important buffs to the build. Fire Shield will give us a huge amount of damage reduction, while Fire Enchant is going to allow our spells to apply additional stacks of Ignite. I like to use Breath of Fire as a way to debuff enemies with Fire Break, as well as we have a Fiery Presence passive that increases our overall fire skill damage. If you enjoy my content or find it useful, please consider donating. I am dedicating all donations and stream revenue in December to go towards my mom's fight with cancer. Of course, donating is not required to view my content, and I won't treat anybody differently, so only support if you can do so comfortably. To all of my contributors, thank you guys so freaking much. It's so hard to express how much that really means to me, so thank you. Within the written guide is a section designed to teach a few Hero Siege leveling basics to newer or returning players. If you're in this category, be sure to check that out, as it is really good information to have whenever you're leveling from 1 to 100. Next, let's talk about how to allocate points into our skill tree while we level. Use the tabs below to show the skill tree progression as you level. Keep in mind some classes may have multiple trees for AoE clearing, single target, or utility options. Levels 1 through 7, I prefer Breath of Fire. It's up to you. You can decide to go Fireball or Blazing Trail. Pick whichever one makes the most sense for you and put all of your points into it. At level 8, we're going to respec our tree, put 1 point into Blazing Trail for auxiliary damage, 1 point into Phoenix Flight. This is our movement ability, and then the rest of your points will go into Scorching Aura to give it as much base damage as we can. At level 16, you're going to put 1 point into Ignite. Be sure that you activate Fire Enchant. That's how you actually proc the Ignite. Then we'll put the rest of our points into Scorching Aura. At level 24, you'll put 1 point into Fire Shield. This is a damage reduction buff as well as a synergy for Scorching Aura. You don't have to do this step. You really don't have a whole lot of plus skills to really beef up the damage reduction of Fire Shield, but that's up to you. From here, we'll max Scorching Aura and then put the rest of our points into Fiery Presence. At level 60, you're going to put 1 point into Fire Nova. This will pull monsters in and keep them in, as well as put Fire Break on them. You cannot do this until level 60. Then we'll max Fiery Presence and put the rest of our points into Blazing Trail, which is a synergy for Scorching Aura. At level 80, max out Blazing Trail and throw the rest of your points in Phoenix Flight. And at level 100, here's what our final tree is going to look like. We're going to max Scorching Aura, max Fiery Presence, max Blazing Trail, max Phoenix Flight, put 1 point into Ignite, 1 point into Fire Nova, and then you'll dump the rest of them into Fire Shield. Sub skill trees are a new feature in Season 5. Simply click on the plus sign in the top right of the skill you're looking to spec into, and a new window will pop up. You gain 1 point for every 5 character levels for every skill that you have allocated. You can reset this tree anytime for free, as well as you can have 1 augment per skill. Listed below are all these sub-skill trees that I recommend while leveling. First is Scorching Aura. This tree increases your Scorching Aura damage based on your maximum life. Flaming Fissure is also huge because it does additional damage, so this tree focuses on proccing it as often as possible through increased tick rate and AoE scaling. Second is Phoenix Flight. This tree focuses on maximum flight speed, damage reduction during flight, and a fire damage buff for Scorching Aura after crashing into enemies. Third is Blazing Trails. This tree focuses on giving a huge movement speed buff while active and slowing enemies by 75%. Fourth is Fire Nova. This tree focuses on using Fire Nova to pull monsters into your Scorching Aura or keep them there, inflicting Fire Break. And lastly, a pro tip. While leveling, you can use your second loadout specifically for movement. You'll simply change Scorching Aura and Blazing Trail to have the movement speed passives in the sub-skill trees. This gives you a 135% movement speed buff during Blazing Trail's duration. Let's talk about attribute allocation. Skills can be quite expensive to use early, especially as you put more and more points into them. It's increasing the mana cost. You will want to put points into energy until you can find your first flat skill damage item, as well as some sustain so you're not chugging on mana pots. After that, follow a 50-50 split rule between intelligence and vitality. You'll do 2 points intelligence, 2 points vitality for every level. Let's move on to gearing. This section is designed to give you workable suggestions on what gear to acquire at different stages of the game. You as a player need to look at your current gear and figure out what options make the most sense for you. Due to the addition of the sub-skill trees, there are item procs or combinations that will not be listed here as they aren't discovered yet. It's up to you to experiment. Alongside gearing in Season 5 is star levels. Be sure to check out my star levels video explain for more information, but this is really for more advanced players and won't affect your playthrough. So don't worry, none of the gear that I'm using in this guide has star levels on it, as it is not required to complete any content in the game. For most of leveling, you'll be searching for rare or mythic items that match your character's damage type, but you may come across some satanics that also make sense to use. I cannot guarantee you dropping a specific satanic, nor will you stop leveling to farm for a specific satanic, so my gear recommendations will not include them. Rune words, however, are nearly guaranteed, as the bases are very common and you can obtain rune from completing quests in Act 1 normal, Nightmare, and Hell, then using the Prospect Station in Act 1 to downgrade runes to the ones that you need. This does not include the runes that you'll naturally drop playing the game. Be sure to check the runes level requirement and the white bases level requirement to ensure that you meet the requirement for both. The in-game journal is a bit misleading on the minimum level requirements for starter rune words, so best to check for yourself. Starting with our weapons, again, we are looking for normal through mythic weapons that have any of these different affixes on it. The strongest one being flat fire skill damage. Because early you don't have access to a lot of skill points, you don't have levels yet, so you have to augment your damage somehow, and we do that with flat fire skill damage. Be sure you're looking out for that. Some rune word options are Sky Song. You can use that as early as level 29. You can put that in any tier of base. However, you do want to make it in a spell blade. Or Pyro has access to Revelation. You can use it as early as level 35. You can use any tier of base. However, you do want to make that in a book. Here are the affixes to look for on an offhand. Important to note that offhands can get movement speed. Rune word options include Sky Song. This is a very offensive option. However, if you're looking for something defensive, Divine Contemplation, you can use it as early as level 21. Look for any 3-socket shield, and it gives you a ton of resistances. Here's all of the affixes to look for on a helmet. Rune word options include Scholar. You can use this as early as level 27. Gives you +1 to all skills. Some mana on kill. Is overall just nice to have. Here's your chest affixes to look for. Again, chests can get movement speed as well as damage reduced by and physical damage reduction. Rune word options include Shadow. You can use this as early as level 17. Gives you a ton of faster cast rate and a ton of movement speed. Or Moltening. You can use this as early as level 35. Gives you an absolute shitload of skills, as well as increased fire damage and minus enemy fire resistance, with built-in life on kill for sustain. Here's our glove affixes that we're going to look for. I like to put life and mana on kill on gloves just for a bit more sustain. For boots, you always want to prioritize movement speed, as this allows you to traverse through the zones faster, especially on League Start Day or when you're leveling a character. You kind of want to traverse and get through these zones quickly. So always prioritize as much movement speed as you can get. Rune word options include quick steps. These are super cheap. You can make them as early as level 31. They give you a ton of movement speed. The rest of them aren't the best. You don't really need attack speed. You don't need the leech. But again, they are used because you get an absolute crap ton of movement speed. Ghost is the better option, but you do need a Mal rune. If you get lucky in your Act 1 quests and you get a Mal or higher, you can prospect that down if you would like to make a pair of ghosts. These give you movement phasing as well as +2 to skills. Phasing allows you to move through objects and enemies. Here's belt affixes to look out for. Affixes on rings. Affixes on amulets. I do like to build a little bit more life and mana on kill in amulets. And lastly, charms. Charms are super important for getting resistances. Be sure that you're picking those up, saving them in your stash. As you switch between different gear that have different types of resistance, you can swap charms in and out to help fill those resistance gaps. As well as you can get movement speed on charms and a very underrated affix, enhanced defense. As a fresh level 100 character, there really isn't best in slot gear at this point. Most items could be swapped with strong mythics. Item decisions are going to revolve around how your character feels over direct power upgrades. For example, if your character has a built-in teleport but low cast rate, choosing items that have higher, faster cast rate than others can make the build feel more smooth to play. You could put any combination of these budget items together and feel capable of completing hell difficulty and begin pushing difficulties. Do not underestimate how strong mythic items can be, especially with the new star level system. Now, I know that the name of this video is life stacking Scorching Aura Pyro. However, the life stacking part of it isn't really a good idea until you've gotten a baseline of items to support Scorching Aura's base damage. So for example, if you have 10,000 life and you're converting 18% of that as increased damage to Scorching Aura, so that's giving you 180% increased damage, but your Scorching Aura base damage is only 100 damage, you're not going to be doing any damage. You need good base damage to multiply with your life. So these options are going to revolve around you really just getting the foundation of the Pyro started, and as you gear through, you can start adding more and more life into different places to multiply the base damage of Scorching Aura. Starting off with weapons, Skysong still a fantastic option. You can find it with intelligence or skill bases. Divinity, if you get lucky and find an early Vex from your Act 1 normal nightmare or hell quest, making a divinity is also very strong, putting that in a base with intelligence or skills. Dragon Knight's Flail is basically a poor man's divinity. If you find a good mythic, you could level that up, or you can continue using Revelation if you find a book again with int or skills on it. Next is offhands. Skysong, also a very good option. You could find one that has life on it or maybe some resistances, make a new Skysong. Divine Contemplation, again, very strong shield, gives you a ton of all res. You can put more resistance on the base, or you could look for one with faster cast rate, or again, more life. Iron Giant Shield, if you find one that's rolled well, a +3 can give you a crap ton of armor, ton of life, and damage reduction. And lastly, if you find a mythic that just has good rolls on it, you could upgrade that as well. For helmets, you can still use a Scholar if you want. I would probably get out of the Scholar. Crown of the Midnight is insane. Creative Secrets gives you a ton of all res. Burning Gaze is definitely the best option here, but it's going to be pretty expensive early. And Mythic star leveled gear, if you find a +4 helmet or something, by all means get that one upgraded and use that. For chests, we have a ton of options. Moltening is probably still your best option because it does give you up to +4 skills, fire skill damage, -res, life on kill. It's a very strong chest. However, there are some other options. Heaven's Might can give you a ton of life as well as physical damage reduction and magic damage reduction. Lichbane is just a cheap option if you want magic skill damage. You can get up to +2 on it. Grand Wizard's Robe is your better option if you're looking for resistances with faster cast rate. Gladstone Goose gives you a ton of resistances, 65% all res, or if you find a mythic that is worthy of upgrading, by all means, that's a good option as well. For gloves, there's Conjured Mitts, Anubis' Mighty Hands, Mevius' Mighty Hands, Wisdom Holes, Sorcerer's Surge gloves, mythic leveled gear. Any of these gloves would serve you well. Also note Mevius' Mighty Hands, I know it shows lightning skills on here. It can roll any of the elements, so you can find one with fire skills. For boots, Quick Steps is going to be your best. For boots, Ghost is probably going to be your best option here. Lava Trevor's For boots, Ghost is probably the best here since you get phasing and decent movement speed, but Lava Treaders are actually the most damage. So if you're looking for the most damage, you'll want to go that route. Some other options, you can continue using your quick steps as they do give a ton of movement speed, or there's Grand Wizard Silk Shoes. If you find those, they're very, very good, up to +3 on them with faster cast rate. However, you don't get very much movement speed, so you're gimping a little bit there. For belts, we have Viper Magi's, Knight's Girdle, Commander Sash, or a Mythic Star leveled belt. Viper Magi is the only one here that does not have a skill on it. However, it does provide some faster cast rate with all res. Knight's Girdle gives you a +2 on a belt with some physical damage reduction. That's really nice, and a ton of vitality. And then Commander Sash is my preferred choice as it does give you some sustain, gives you some all res, gives you some physical damage reduction, and still has a skill on it. Rings are going to include Kodo Wedding Bands, Iron Ring of Prometheus, Satanic Eye, Ring of Talos, or Mythic Rings with fire skills. Kodo's Wedding Bands are probably the best option here. You do get a ton of movement speed as well as a skill on them. Ring of Talos is probably your next best. You still get the plus skill as well as percent life, which is more damage for Scorching Aura. Lacking resistances, you can go Satanic Eye. And if you're looking for more faster cast rate, Iron Ring of Prometheus is really nice, as well as you get some additional magic find on that. Aimlets, we have a ton of options. Satan's Precious is by far the best option here with +3 skills. However, you could go with a Shining Pearl that's giving you 50% magic skill damage, as well as some life and mana. Or if you get lucky and find an All-Seeing Eye, that's +3 skills, and then you get up to 50% magic find. And last, we have Charms. Mythic Charms can have a ton of really good affixes. Here's a list of the ones that you'll want to look for. As well as you do have Satanic Charms. However, they aren't really an early game buy. They will be rather expensive, but I wanted to show you a couple to look out for while you're grinding. The first is Solar Charm. This gives you a ton of minus enemy fire resistance, which is very important for any elemental build. However, it does have a minus 75% fire resistance penalty to yourself. Second is Satan's Chalice. Very, very strong. You get +3 fire skills and up to 15 all attributes, which is 15 magic skill, damage, and some fire res. As far as balancing goes, this part is still underway in the beta. I will be testing all builds live on Twitch and updating this section in the written guide as I do, but I would rather have this section empty than to steer players in the wrong direction. Here's a list of all the relics that work with this build. You're going to have to decide on your best option based on your current gear, stats, and build feel. However, the first 4 are the ones that I recommend, with the utility options being the remaining. Currently in Season 5, Mercenaries generally only have one purpose, being a magic find or a bot. Mercenary magic find is applied to your on-kill magic find, so we will be stacking as much as we can get. Here's the Mercenary skill tree I recommend. And for gear, again, generally we're looking for the most magic find. However, for weapons, there is Aurora's Might, which can give you a huge resistance bonus on your character early. Once you've solved your resistances for your character, any of these options, Sacred Whip, Ceremonial Dagger, or Death Smear, are good magic find weapon options. Here's some assorted magic find chests, magic find helmets, and magic find offhands. Below is a list of satanic potions and their effects. I recommend damage options first, then build into some utility, but the choice is really up to you. Here's a detailed starter highlight filter made by me specifically for this build. This ensures that you will highlight exactly what you need all the way to hell. Below that, I do explain how I put this filter together so that you know exactly what is being highlighted if you want to make changes. Remember that highlight filters do not hide any items. You need a filter in order for that to happen. If you're not sure how filters work, be sure to check the written guide. I do have a bit more explanation on how filters work, as well as I do have the beginner's guide that goes really in detail on how filters work. Again, this is just a highlight filter. And that's going to wrap up the Pyromancer Scorching Aura Live Stacker for Season 5. I truly hope this guide helps you in your journey. It was a ton of work, and I can't wait to see how blown away everyone is by Season 5. Be sure to check out more starter builds at the end of the written guide or via link in the description. Hit that subscribe button to let me know you want more Hero Siege content, and come say hi on Twitch at twitch.tv/Graxy_TV for live Graxy fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.